we need to talk about what life was like in Spanish Texas. So we figured out that the Indians here played a big part of it. The Spanish came in and made their best out of this province, especially lured forward by the French. But what was it like to live in Spanish Texas? Well, it helps if we take a look at three different things. Let's take a look at the politics of New Spain. Let's take a look at the society and its ideas about race and caste. And then let's also talk about economics. We take a look at those three things, then I'll tell you how we're going to apply it to the far reaches of the frontera, how it applies to Texas. Who actually rules in Texas during the Spanish colonial period? Well, Texas is at the end of a long chain of command. The top of the chain of command, of course, is the king, El Rey. And El Rey has a vast empire to oversee that stretches all the way to the Philippines, back into Europe, into what is now the Netherlands. It's all over the place. So he needs some help in various parts of the empire. So he has what are designated as vice kings or viceroys. Texas is part of the viceroyalty of New Spain. Its headquarters is in Mexico City. Well, beneath the viceroy, there's a number of provincial governors. And Texas is part of a larger province that has its own provincial governor. So it's way on down the food chain in terms of political attention. Being on the frontera, it's tough for government officials to get out there. So Texas is by and large left in many ways up to its own political devices. One thing to understand about colonial Mexico is that it is an extraordinarily race-conscious place. Now, there's great sort of subdivisions within the population of New Spain. On top, you have Los Peninsulares. These are the guys who are born in Europe. They come over, do their time in the New World, and then they go back to Europe. By and large, they go back to Europe. These guys constitute the ruling class. These are the ones that the king trusts and trusts to advance the cause of European Spain in the New World. Below them are the criollos, or the Creoles. These are the European descended people that have the misfortune of being born in the New World. So they're not entirely European. They're kind of seen as rustics or rubes, you know, almost European, but not quite. Beneath the criollos, there's an entire array of various caste and race. I've got a few that I want to rattle off. For instance, a Spaniard or a criollo marries an Indian, they create their offspring are mestizos. So European plus Indian equals mestizo. But then what if an Indian marries a mestizo? Or what if there's an African slave, free, either way, that marries into this? What happens there? But what if there's a Chinese person that marries in and they begin to intermingle with all these different castes and races? It gets to be bewildering to most observers because they are very conscious of exactly where everybody fits in this sort of order. You're not a Peninsulada, you're not a Criollo, then what are you? If you're pure Indian, that's pretty easy to demarcate too. You can point to people as Indians and everybody understands what you're talking about. But in between, there's a million different shades. There's mestizos, castizos, españoles, mulattos, moriscos, chinos, salta arias, lobos, cribaros, alborzados, cambujos. Each of these connote some sort of mix in the race. Ultimately, Mexico is the mestizo nation. The bulk of the population in New Spain is of mixed race ancestry. later scholars will refer to this as the creation of La Raza Cosmica, or an entirely new race on planet Earth, one that is a combination of all the old races on the planet, all distilled down into this new sort of population in the New World. So what does that mean? Well, in places like Mexico City, this will become incredibly important. In places outside of the capital, the viceroyal capital, it won't matter as much.